Big welcome to the Young Hearts Run Free podcast. Scott, how are you doing this evening?
I'm good. Thanks for having me on. It's late. It's after 8 o'clock here, but no better way than spending my night with you two.
Aye, thank you. John heard after 8 there and he thought you were talking about food already.
Good.
But no, thank you for making time in your pretty hectic schedule to join us. We appreciate it, and we've got much to speak about. But before we do so, we like to kind of hand the mic over to our guests to introduce themselves. You know, what's your backstory? What got you into the running and the fitness caper that you're all heavily involved in now? So over to you, Scott, to give us a lowdown.
So I've not got an amazing story where I was 20 stone and lost all the weight, because I think these stories are inspiring, but I've always been into fitness. Since I was at school, I'm quite sad when I dropped my bag off at school, like when I turned up at school and I would run in the school in the morning to try and clock a fast time in primary school. And half the time I was always trying to beat my own time because I was like the fastest in primary. And then I played football a lot when I was in primary school, so a lot of football, even like boys club, even BBs, because I just wanted extra football time. So yeah, I went and done some of that. Then when I got into secondary school, we carried on karate. My dad has made us do karate. I've got a twin brother as well, and an older brother, Kevin, and Ross, my twin brother. So my dad was doing karate at a young age. Discipline, it was brilliant. You know, we didn't want to turn up, but we were forced to turn up. That was just what happened, and so it was good. So that was good for mobility, discipline, all that kind of stuff. So we did a lot of that, and then football was on and off. Like, it was just being a typical teen when I felt like it. You know, when I wasn't hanging about streets, corners, and with my mates and getting up to no good as a twin brother, you know. But yeah, then when we left school, I joined the army. It was never really in my intentions to join the army. I joined as an army air dispatcher, so I used to throw stuff at the back of planes. So I was logistics, but I'd always had this. I was always had this mentality, that strive to do better. Although you had a course to complete to be an air dispatcher and throw stuff at the back of planes. You worked with special forces doing this, SAS, SBS, the paras. And then I was like, wait a minute, I like the look of this. And there was the boys jumping at the planes. I was like, I want to do that. So I'd asked to go and do P company. I passed P company. Then I was like, nah, it's not enough. I want to be the PTI that trains the paras and is going for P company. So my boss said, yeah, no worries. I'd went and done my PTI course and passed that. So I was always, I would class it as a badge collector. I was just always want to do more, always seeking something else. There was never enough. But anyway, so I was doing stuff like that, and then I got to a point where I'd been to probably different places, good and bad, across the world. Places that I didn't really plan on going, but you can imagine, like the Middle East and stuff like that, because there was no conflict when I joined. And then I was going to places like that, and then I was like, do you know what? I've had enough of this. And I wanted a fresh start. Wanted to enjoy civvy life and see what that was like, because it's all I knew if I was 16. And I was in mid-20s now, so I was like, I've been in for like nearly 9 years. So I signed off, and then I get out. I finished off my career. I was in Northern Ireland with a couple of kids. A couple of failed relationships, we'll say that. And so I just kind of thought to myself, do you know what? I need a wee bit of kind of normality and kind of stability when about my civilian life. And then I get out and tried to settle in Civvy Street, just like as in normal day-to-day jobs. I was working in Bombardier Aerospace and Belfast, stuff like that. And then ended up back doing close protection again. So I went back out to what I call the sand pit back in the Middle East. It was a gun for hire, so I just went to the highest bidder that paid me the most, and that was that's the truth, you know. And then I was getting pop star wages. I was earning good money, and then a cat's got 9 lives. I've only got the one, and I thought to myself, I can't do this. There's other reasons as well, but I wanted to be at home. My young daughter needed me at the time, so I decided enough was enough. I packed up that work in and come back home. So I was back in Belfast, but decided my family was in Scotland. I was wanting to base myself for there. So I come back here, and to be honest, because I'd get out of the army and even close protection, I was still doing a bit of running, but I started doing more like kind of bodybuilding, and I wanted to get bigger because I was always like just a wee racing snake, and I was just got boxed for the army and stuff like that. So I was always having to watch my weight, so I was always running a lot and things like that. So I was always very, very, very fit, as you can guess, for doing P company and things like that. But I wanted to put on more weight. I was probably a wee bit more anxious about how small I was, and then I ended up being an absolute unit. So I was like probably a stone and a half heavier, or 2 stone heavier for when I get out, and then the novelty of that wore off. So I was back in Civvy Street, back here in Scotland, and I started my fitness business. I was running my first boot camp. There was 56 people come to it, which was unreal. My dad said to me, son, do you want a hand at the boot camp, just in case there's a big turnout? And I says, Dad, I'll be fine. I reckon, you know what people are like? They say they're going to come. There's going to be about 9 people there. And he's going, you sure? And I says, all right, just come anyway, just in case. And I came along, and there was 56 people turned up, and I couldn't believe it. I was like, wow. Now, I'd been getting into Chinese restaurants and hairdressers, because I'd done my hair all up, got the gel in and all that, best aftershave on. And I went down the town, and I was tightest t-shirt I could wear, like extra small t-shirt, and into the hairdressers, and I was going, all right, girls, I says, you look like the kind of girls that work out. You look like, and they were all like, oh, really, really? And I was going, you fancy coming to my boot camp? I'll give you a free session and that. And next thing, the place, what my understanding was, even if these girls didn't want to come to my boot camp, they would talk about me all day. They would say there was this guy in, and he says I was lovely, and that I should come to his boot camp. So hey, it worked. The place was mobbed, and that was as is my fitness business. The rest was history, because it kind of grew from there. You know, I'd had this really successful run at it. I wasn't sure if it was going to stay. I'd won numerous Scottish Business Awards for the best fitness business in Scotland and things like that, which was crazy. And then I started getting into the evolution changed for doing kind of functional bodybuilding and a bit of running, a wee bit of running on the side, to doing OCRs, so obstacle course racing. Mm-hmm. And that was because there was going to be the first OCR was, well, it wasn't the first, but the first big kind of mainstream OCR was coming to the UK. It was in all these glossy magazines like Men's Health and stuff, and it was saying, Tough Mudder, come to the UK, ex Special Forces have ran this, or I've designed this. And I was like, wow, look at this. You can get electrocuted, you're going to go underneath barbed wire, you're going to carry breeze blocks and bricks, and through water. And I thought, that's perfect, that's right up my street. So I basically contacted my twin brother. I was boarding a flight and I was reading this magazine. I contacted my twin brother Ross, who does not do any kind of fitness of any sort. He doesn't do so much now, but he was doing a lot of bodybuilding and stuff then, like weightlifting. And he was always a bit bigger because I would do more functional stuff as well. So I said to him, you fancy this, bro? And he's like, what is it? And I says, it's a Tough Mudder. So you need to know it's a obstacle course. And he's like, yeah, let's go. Sign us up. So I signed us up, and I taught him to train. I taught him to do some 10Ks and stuff like that. And he taught me he'd been training. And we turned up to this OCR, and we painted, we stripped off. It was a nice day. It was catering down in England, and it was the first of this kind in the UK. And we stripped off, no tops on, a pair of short shorts on, and we painted brown bros across our backs in paint. It's like orange and black paint, the Tough Mudder colours, and we painted this on our backs. and everybody's like, oh, look at these two meatheads, turning up for this, because they were all like runners. And but we'd painted this, and we were doing all the kind of stuff inside the warm-up area, like flipping kegs and throwing stuff and all that they'd set up. Nobody's taking on these challenges apart from us two. And they were like, all right, I bet they can't run now. So anyway, we started off at the start line, and it was 3-2-1, off we went. And this big crowd were charging down this like start kind of runway, I'll say. But this battlefield, I had a Scottish, because we were Scottish, we're like, this is the battlefield, bro. This is us. We're going to war against all these English. We're going to have to win this. So we were heading down this field, and Ross quickly said to me, bro, I'm out of my depth. I'm done. He says, you go. You do well, Frizz. I was going, are you sure? I says, I'll stay with you. He's going, no. It's going to be a long day for you. He says, just go. I was like, right, okay. I was like, I'll see you at the finish. So I've cracked on, went through some water, did the leopard crawling and all that. I was like, been back in the army. I was like, this is brilliant. And I came first through the finish line. These other boys that were these other boys that were good runners, but anytime it come to kind of physical stuff, it would slow them down. And they were like, man, you're in good shape. But back in those days, it was 2012. If you won, or if you finished top 5% of the Tough Mudder, this race, the competition wasn't great. Everybody was taking on for fun, and if you'd finished in the top 5%, which to me wasn't that hard, you could qualify for World's Toughest Mudder. That was 24 hours of this, going to run an obstacle course, getting electrocuted, doing all these things, and I was like, so I got this email after like 2 days or something saying, congratulations, you're in the top 5%. You've qualified for World's Toughest Mudder in New Jersey. I was like, brilliant. I was like, this is great. I'm going there, New Jersey. 24 hours of doing that. That was brilliant. I get my money's worth there. So I went and done that, and finished 10th in the world, which was quite impressive, like for somebody that never done it. I was the only guys who beat me. I was top European and 10th in the world, and the only guys who beat me was guys and by the way, ladies, because there was 8 guys, and one of the ladies who beat me was called Amelia Boone, and the reason I say this is because she was an absolute savage. She still is, brilliant athlete, and I didn't know much about her, but until she was passing me, because I was ahead of her during the race, and she passed me, and I was like, no way, I'm getting checked, right? This is my initial thought, just this kind of stupid mentality, being a young ex-army guy, but I'll just be honest about this. And so I was like, man, I'm getting checked. And then I'm looking and going, she was upside down on this rope, traversing across a lake, and I'm taking the easy option, just swimming across the lake, because I didn't want to, my arms were tired, I didn't want to make them even more tired by traversing across which I could have done. But then she impressed me even more, and I'm going, she's an absolute badass. So that gave me the bug for the event as well. I was going, do you know what? I can do these things because I've been in the army, but you're just knowing that mentality, doing it time after time. And then the next year I trained again. And the next year I did this event, like after this, like I did it 8 times in total. And I was like top European every time I'd raced in it, and top 10 in the world every time I raced in it. So I was finishing like 5th in the world, 8th, 6th, things like that. But my best performance one year I went with my brother, and it wasn't they had my best finish. It was one year I went, and I finished, I think I finished 8th overall, but it was better than the 5th places when I'd won money and stuff like that, £1,000 and all that. But they weren't the best. This one was the best. I'd been, I'll try and cut the long story short, but I'd been traveling around this course for like 7 or 8 laps, and I would run this lap. Instead of jumping for a platform and jumping with 2 hands onto a cargo net, I decided to try and just be a bit special this time and show off a bit to the crowd that was there. And I've jumped and hooked my one arm through the net, like we'd done on a confidence course when you're doing P Company and then in the army. So I've tried to do this fancy kind of catch with one arm, and my arm gets snagged, and I've went down the way towards the water. My arms get snagged, and that stayed up, and I've tore my pec, and I've went into the water, and I've come out, and I've like initially thought it was my bicep, because my bicep went floppy, and I've went, oh no, what's happened here? So I've tried to, you know when you get to the end of a swimming pool and you try and lift yourself at the pool. So it was like that. So I've tried to push myself at the pool, and I couldn't use my arm, and I've gone, oh no. So I've said to the guy who was kind of marshalling that obstacle, I says, mate, can you help me out? And he says, if I help you at this obstacle, you're DQ'd, as long as you're all right with that. And I was sitting third in the world at the time, and I was like, oh, and I was like, I feel brilliant. This can't happen to me. So I says, right, I've tried again. I couldn't use my arm, and I was like, I must have torn my bicep. No, because it's initial, just everything's hazy. So somebody's fell in, because obviously people fail obstacles all the time, but I just don't fail them. So somebody's fell in, and I've said to him, mate, can you help me out? And he says, aye, if you help me out. And I've goes, absolutely. So I've helped him with my good arm, and he's turned around and helped me. And I thought, this is a way. I need to do this all the way around for this course now. As long as I help people, they can help me. And I was like, of course, you know. So then that's what I've done. And I've started understanding what it's like at the other end of the course when people are needing help in every obstacle. So I've come in at the end of this lap. My brother's going, what's happening? What's happening? I says, shh, just keep your mouth shut. Come with me to the tent. So we've went across to the tent, and my brother's brilliant, like in the pit, you know, he's great. He's used to crewing me and different things, and he says, what's up? Like, because he's kind of like, he's treating this like a Ferrari pit stop every lap, but this time it's not working. This time it's like, and it's not because of him, it's because of me. So I've come in, I says, you've got to keep quiet, just get my wetsuit out my bag. I'm going to take my top off. He's like, he says, it's in the middle of the day. And I says, I know. And this time we were in Atlanta, it wasn't in New Jersey because they were freezing. Atlanta was roasting in the day, and I says, just get my wetsuit out. He says, it's too hot. And I says, no, get my wetsuit out. So he gets my wetsuit out, and I've took my top off, and you can see right across my pec, totally torn, my chest, my pec's flopping, and and he's gone, turned around and looked at me, he's going, bro, I need to go and get a doctor and a medic and that. I was going, I grabbed him by the arm, I goes, you're not going fucking anywhere. I says, stand where you are. And he's like, he's going, I says, don't tell a soul about this, don't tell MD. I says, see if you tell somebody, I'm going to get DQ'd. And he's going, you're off your bloody head. And I was going, right, just get it. So we strapped me inside the wetsuit, and then I ran for like something like, that was 8 hours in, so I ran for like, I know, 16 hours with one arm and 2 legs. I thought, I've got 2 good legs and 1 good arm, so I'll take every penalty going. So I ended up coming, so I dropped at this point to 24th, in the mid-20s, and then I ended up clawing all the way back during the night, because people were starting to take breaks when they're tired. I was like, I cannot take one break like I normally do. I need to run every single minute, and I clawed my way back to 8th. So that was my best world's toughest mudder because of that. But so anyway, that was that. And then I left. I'd seen, I was actually on a normal wee run here. And the reason I got into running is I was on a run here in Ayrshire and down in my local in Dundonald Woods. And I seen a guy out running in the woods, David, and he was a member of Troon Tortoises. Rutherford, his name is. He's done the West Highland Way. Rutherford, I'm trying to remember his surname. I'll message you. But really nice guy, older guy, and I stopped him. He'd been running over, I call it my hill, but I never see him doing this hill, and it's just because I don't see him doing it. I've been running over it's a road hill, goes over the Highgrove and then through the trails in Dundonald. And I was driving back from work. I was going, there's somebody on my hill. What's going on here? And so I've quickly get changed, and I've kind of ran through the trails. And there he is. And I said hello to him. I says, mate, I seen you on the hill there. And he says, aye. I says, I sometimes use it. I'm training for the Devil of the Highlands. And I was going, what's that? And he says, it's an ultra on the West Highland Way. And I says, all right. I says, well, what's an ultra? And he says, it's 40 mile. Or this one's 43 mile or something. I goes, all right, that sounds interesting. He goes, well, entry's open tonight. And I goes, I'll maybe look at it when I get back home. And he goes, oh, nice to meet you anyway. I says, aye, I'm Scott, I'm David. And that was it, exchange going. I ran on and I was like, what a cool customer. He's older and he's doing these ultras. I thought that was brilliant. So carries on, finishes my run. Probably did the hill because he did it. and then ran back, signed up to the Devil of the Highlands, which I had no clue about, and then thought to myself, what do I do? I thought, training wise, I thought, right, just do a couple of 20 milers close to the event, because you're still doing the odd short distance 10k OCR. Just continue doing your OCRs, do a couple of runs a week, and go and do a couple of 20 milers when it's getting closer, do a couple of 10 milers an hour. And that was as strategic as I got for it. And I'd been getting closer to the event, and I'd contacted a guy, because I'd seen him active on the page, like this Devil of the Highlands chat group. There was a guy, David Gow. So I contacted him, because he must have answered one of my messages, and I got into contact with him, and he was very, very helpful. This guy was really nice, and he was like messaging me backwards and forwards, saying, "See if you want any more help, message me." I was like, "It's a really nice guy," and so I'd carried on. I'd only done a couple of 20 milers, and I'd done those on the West Highland Way. I was doing kettlebells once a week that I still swear by. I think it's great for training, great for ultra training. So it's a good full body workout. Then, I turned up on race day. I met the night before it, I was staying in Tyndrum, and I was staying in these wee kind of wigwam things. And I seen David, and he was David Gow, my David, and he's going, "No way, Scott," he says. And he's telling his mate, he said, the story happens as I told Scott about this race on Dundonald Trails, and he signed up. And I goes, "Yeah, managed to sign up." And he's going, "That's brilliant." He said, "I love the fact you just signed up to it." And I was going, and he's going, "Are you ready for this?" And I says, "Well, we'll see." And then the next day, race morning, we turned up, and everybody was nice. It was outside the Green Welly, and I see David Gow. He's with Pylon Race Team at the time. Although I didn't really speak with Paul Giblin, there was other guys like your Connolly brothers, Graham, and so they boys were there. And I remember David introducing me to them all. But these guys were serious dudes. And David's going, "This is Scott. This guy's fierce. It's his first ultra." And these boys were like, "What's your running plan? What's your strategy?" And I was going, "Just going to go for it." They were like, right. And I could see they were like, "Yeah, cheers for that." And they kind of moved on. And I would say most of the other guys were more gatty in that, but these guys were thinking, "Yeah, he's kind of more. He's not really as serious as we were." So I did see that there was a kind of serious side in some of them, but. David was, I remember David very friendly, but when I finished that, and I can't remember the place I finished. You maybe have that there. But I was
finished
8th overall, about 6.5 hours or something like that.
Yeah, 6:33. Yeah.
And I remember thinking I was over the moon with that because it was my first ultra. And then Paul Giblin actually came over to me and says, "Listen," he says, I was talking to my boys there, and he says, I said that if you happen to take this seriously, you would actually be a good ultra runner. He says, because like you, what did you do for that? And I told him, well, I actually just done a couple of 20 milers, and I cut my kettlebells and just some strength training. He's like, "That's brilliant, considering you've no race strategy or anything like that. That was great." He says, "So." He says, "They boys know that if you, that he just probably bumming me up a bit." That was nice of him. So I was delighted, and I said to him, "You wouldn't happen to come down to Ayrshire to my boot camp and meet these guys, because, I know that you've won the West Highland Way, and, like you're a pure inspiration to me." And he did. He came down like 2 weeks later and met my full boot camp and was nice. We chatted to them, and I thought that was amazing of him, So that was the kind of start of it. I did his. Yeah, I'll leave it.
Well, what year was that? I'm just trying to get a timeline on here. First, I'm trying to get a word in, I know.
2015.
Yeah.
2015. 10 years ago, Scott ran his first ultra. Just for context. We've got 10 years.
Can also say that David Ruthven finished in 8 hours 38 minutes that year as well. That's a good shift for David Ruthven too. So well done.
Yeah,
Brilliant,
I'm glad you
brilliant.
actually said his name right. So I was, so yeah,
It's a familiar name, actually. Familiar name in
yeah,
the ultra
nice
community.
guy. Nice guy. So and I know he does a lot of kind of mindset stuff as well, and with people as well. So, 'cause he, but really nice guy. But yeah, he introduced me to it through a chat in the trails.
So 2015. Wait a minute. I'm going to ask a question before John does. You said you played football, and we always ask people who played football.
Same
what position-
question. We're
What
both
position
thinking the
they
same thing.
played? What position did you play at football?
So I played up front. Then I went to left mid, and then I was left mid during when I played. Anytime I played in the army, and then then when I told you I get out and I was living in Belfast for a wee while, I played centre back. I don't know if that's because I was doing weights at the time, but
Aye.
I think it was because a lot of the boys were young boys, so they were getting muscled. So there was a team. There was a team in there was a team in East Belfast, so they had a kind of junior, they had a kind of first team and a second team, and they asked me to play with the seconds because I was boxing, so they knew I was fit anyway. So I was playing with the seconds, and then a couple of times they would say, "We want to pay you to come and play with the firsts." And I says, "There's no way I'm turning up for the firsts." He says, "Why is that?" I says, "Because these guys are training every week," and I says, "Because even if I would get a game, I don't deserve a game because I don't train with your teams and I can't commit to it because I'm boxing training and I'm also doing my other training, my weights and stuff." And they said, so he goes, "No, pal, you've read us wrong." And you know that the crack that they have, like in Belfast, he goes, "We want you to muscle these guys off the ball." And I was going, "All right." And I goes, "So I just got to come and muscle people." And he goes, "Yeah, that's right." He goes, if somebody starts on one of their boys, you get smashed right through them." And I was like, "I can do that." so that's what I did. I just went in there and there was teams like you're playing up in like the Shanko and Rathcoole and all that. And these guys were tough boys and if any of them get torn in about our boys, I just get wired in and I get bonus money for that. So yeah.
Oh man, you sound like your namesake.
Oh, crazy. Oh, yeah, brilliant. Right. So yeah.
So
Oh,
a couple of positions there. We always ask as well, football player. Who was your favourite player? Who did you want to be when you were on the park?
Who did I support?
Well, you can answer that as well if you want.
I
That's cool.
I don't mind. When I was young, I was a Rangers fan. So I followed Rangers, and my dad got us into it, took us to a cup final, and I was like, "Ah, right." So all the way, my childhood was Rangers until, crazily enough, I was bought this like a box set. It was Paley. It was a box set with Paley, Gary Lineker, and Peter Shilton in it. And then I ended up a Tottenham fan.
Ah,
And I was honestly mental. And I ended up, when I joined the army, because it was all English boys I worked with, so they were all the Premier daft. And I was like, do you know what? I can't really talk about Scottish football. They had no interest in it. So I ended up supporting Tottenham, and which wasn't very good then either, because the glory days were well gone. You know, they were like, that was my box set days, watching for my childhood, watching the box sets, and watching all the amazing teams like Hoddle and all the rest of it, and even Gaza before he came to Rangers, and then when he was at Rangers, because I was watching him on my box sets, and so I ended up just a Tottenham fan. I stopped watching Scottish football, and then I was just really, I liked his Premiership up until probably a few years into the army, and I kind of just stopped. I didn't, although I still like Tottenham, I don't really follow them. I probably went to more contact sports, as you probably heard from my initial bit, with the boxing, UFC, and even rugby. I played a wee bit of sevens in the army, and just watched Glasgow Warriors and followed that. So
maybe the best informed intro we've had, actually, and maybe the longest. We're just kicking the arse off half an hour at the intro. So no, it's cool. It's brilliant.
2 coffees.
And I also know, Scott, that since 2015 you've done some pretty remarkable stuff, and I'm almost fair to ask because I want to have plenty of time to concentrate on the head the headline act, which was something a lot more recent. And I know that 2015 debut ultramarathon has led on to other successes. That, you know, we've got tons of time tonight, but we've also got tons of time in the rest of our bloody run of this, because I think John and I have got any intention of getting it up. So you'll be welcome to come back. But John, I want to focus on the recent spectacular on the West Highland Way. John, unless you've got any other burning questions.
No, I think we're both going down the football route. I think you're right, Stephen. I think let's focus on Scott's most recent outing on the West Highland Way. Let's do that.
What about it, Scott? West Highland Way. Was that, did that become a bit of a fascination since that devil? Was West Highland Way something that was on your kind of radar and everything?
I will keep this short, this one, right? So I did the Devil of Highlands, and then I seeked to after a few ultras. I mean, like I wasn't even training for a couple of ultras. I was just jumping in and doing them. It just as a bit of fun. I was doing my OCRs, and then I wanted to do the West Highland Way race, and then I'd contacted Casey Morgan, who was an ultra coach, who won the year I did it, and him and Donny Campbell done this race together, and they were dressed in the full Salomon gear, and I'm going, look at these two, absolute. I was like, wow, they look like gods, you know, at the start with their, you know, with their nice tans and their white and black Salomon outfits, and I was like, so I contacted Casey, and he actually prepped me for the West Highland Way race, and done the West Highland Way race, in 1753, finished in the top 10. I think it was like 6th or 7th or something. Done that, and then that was, and I absolutely loved it. Casey taught me, he says, just go, he says, you've never done a race of this length, just pace it well, just, you know, and just go really easy in the first half. And I did. So I just took it easy. I thought, remember what he said, go really easy, because you don't want to burn it. It's a non-stop race. And I enjoyed it. I loved it, and I loved the route. It was like I'd never walked it or anything like that. I just saw, apart from the devil, that was the first time I'd put it all together, and it was just outstanding. It was amazing. So I then, after that, always had a real love for it. I loved the family. I loved the support. I loved seeing all the back runners coming in. I loved just the full thing, probably just like you guys. And then I was doing the Ramsey's round one year, and it was like, for anybody that doesn't know, it's 24 Monroes and under 24 hours. And I was driving back for it, and my mate, or driving on a recce day. I wasn't sure if it was that or a training day for it. But my mate, Chris Saunderson, he was in the car with me, and he says, you imagine running the West Highland Way there and then turning running back again? I was going, I'm looking out, watching all the walkers as we're driving back. We're passing like the Devil's Staircase and stuff, and I can see these walkers, and I was like, and he's going, you're a madman, you're thinking about that, aren't you? And I says, definitely. And I goes, that would be brilliant. So the seed was planted there and then, and he must have thought I forgot about it, but it was always there in the back of my head. But the thing is, I love racing. I love to do things. I love to do events. So some events, maybe I was wrong for me at the time. I wasn't prepping for them, or I was jumping in after an event. I was wanting to do UTMB, so I was jumping in and doing other things. I was trying to get points up, and so I was doing all these other things. So I never time for these personal challenges, endeavours, until this year. And then I thought to myself, this is the year. I thought, and I'm going to be too old for this to do a challenge of this magnitude at one point. Well, that's what my head was telling me anyway. I was like, I should do this while I've got some fitness. So I just thought, so I messaged him and says, this is it. This is the year. And he just goes, really? And I goes, definitely, we're on. And I says, I'm going to build a crew for this. And part of that reason was because I was wanting to do a Bob Graham crack, and I couldn't do it because I'd hurt my knee in Easter time when I was going to do it. And I thought, I'm not wasting people's time taking them down there and it doesn't happen. I'll do it next year. So, because it's a lot of planning for that. So I thought, I'm not going to do that. I can do this. I can do that next Easter. I'll do this now. I'll train for this. I feel like it's a lot more accessible to go on the West Highland Way. This is it. So for me, when I was doing the West Highland Way, I remember seeing John Kynaston a lot. And he was always in these like kind of write-ups, writing about the West Highland Way, like kind of, I would call them blogs. He was also in like winter lockdown. He was doing videos with stuff and things like that. Was it lockdown? But he was always a figure before I was in 2019 when I was doing it. Like I'd seen things he'd done, and I was like, wow, like so he'd always been to me when I associated the West Highland Way. It was like him, Ian Beattie, even people then like David Gow and other people like the Pylon Race team and all these people that are then associated with, like Paul Giblin, people that I looked up to. And then James Stewart and all these, and I was like different people, like back end, forward end. I was going, wow, like all these incredible things they were doing on it. And but John Kynaston was always at the front of that, and because he had passed, I thought, do you know what? I thought, and I always like to, in my own head, I try and keep it personal usually, but the odd time, sometimes for this case, I thought, well, do you know what? I'll dedicate this race to him, and I'll do it for charity, and it will be a good meaning and a good purpose when I'm doing the actual event. That will bring, like, there's no way out after that. When you see something like that, like you can't say dedicate something like that and then tap out. It's getting done, So, and it was fitting. It was going to mean something. And then I reached out to Ian and I asked him what he thought of it, because if he thought it was a wrong thing to do, I wasn't going to do that. I wasn't going to mention it, because he was closer to John, and I thought, like, if they said nah, like don't do that, I wouldn't have done it. If they say, just do it for yourself, I'll do it for myself. And when they said absolutely, I think it's a great idea, and I think somebody will, in time, we should mention it to his family, Holly, and his wife and stuff, and they were all on board, and I raised, in the whole process, I raised £4,000, so that was brilliant. So it was I'm glad I dedicated it for him. So that was it. That was the reason for it.
Can I ask you, Scott, when did you hear that, right, I'm doing it this year, that you spoke about? When was that time frame? What were we thinking? Springtime? When did you decide?
It was Easter. It was Easter. As soon as I couldn't do I was always going to do it, but I just didn't know when I was going to do it. But I knew I was going to do it after Easter time, and when I couldn't have my Bob Graham plans go into place, I then knew it was all go for it was all go to do. The next challenge was going to be the out and back West Highland Way.
Sounds almost, the double West Highland Way, just like just rolled off the tongue, doesn't it?
But you can't just call it an out and back. Yeah, I know it is an out and back, but you can't just call it that. It's 192 miles out and back, man. Crazy.
And just again for context for folk listening, Scott, what was the date that you decided on for doing it? What was the date you undertook it?
It was the 11th of July.
Okay.
And it going into the 12th of July that weekend.
Yep.
So
at the time of running, it's a bit different now. This week we've got a bit of a heat wave, but at the time of running, that was the hottest day of the year as well. just to ramp up a wee bit.
For those who can't see Scott's face, who are only watching on a YouTube channel, we could get that reaction.
Can we just say as well that I think both Stephen and I are indebted to John Kynaston as well, because we listened a lot. John Kynaston did the West Highland Way podcast, and we listened a lot to that and picked up loads of stuff and read his blogs. And if we're honest, John Kynaston's played a massive part, unwittingly or unknowingly, about this podcast, because we listened to a lot of the stuff that he did. So he's inspired us to do that as well. So much kudos to John Kynaston, a great guy and a great reason to do it. And I know I've got the donation page up here as well, the charity that you ran for Circle, a charity that I wasn't aware of, but it's in central Scotland. Do you want to say a wee bit about them, Scott?
Yeah. So so I wasn't quite sure. I was trying to link it up with a charity that maybe John, but then I realised it was John's family that set up the charity. It wasn't really. So I thought to myself, do you know what? As long as it's going to charity, as long as it's something that means something to me, then he would be totally for that. So they help families, deprived families, all sorts of reasons. Like it could be substance abuse, it could be other reasons, so families in need and across the Central Belt. And you know what? I always believe in as much as you take out in life, you've got to give a bit back. I've got a platform, and I'm going to use it for the greater good. So I try and do that every single year, and that was a way I could do that. So
power to you, man. Power to you. I love that. Yeah. Back to the West Highland Way, Stephen.
Back to the West Highland Way. So started on the 11th of July. Trained between Easter and the 11th of July, but I think it's very apparent, if you've maybe not got this by now, Scott's pretty naturally got a no bad base fitness to start upon. So for me doing something like that, I'd probably need about a 4-year lead-in time. For you, it was more like a 3-month lead-in time. What did that 3-month look like? You talked about getting your crew together, but more in terms of the dedicated training. What did that look like for you, Scott?
So kind of always in training. I feel like ultras, the longer, and I think like tip for people listening, like long ultras and long days out, like these kind of things and personal endeavours and all that, only done well through a small training block. It's through a year or two in it, so it's like over the long period. So as long as you're always doing like kind of big days out or things like that, then you're never too far away. But I think it was more just tuning into it, what I was doing. A wee bit of time on route then, some bigger days than I was used to. I think big days are usually, like when I'm no training for events, are like 2 to 3 hours. That's a big day. So that's just a big run. And then coming closer, some of my big runs were maybe 4 to 6 hours, and kind of 6 hours when it was on the peak weeks, and so a couple of big days, and the rest of the training is usually kind of the same, apart from a couple of midweek runs are slightly bigger. So there's not a lot that changes for me anyway, just my personal. And then, apart from a big run at the weekend, it usually gets bigger. Then I start running with more with my pack, my race, going through race kit, nutrition. As it gets closer, being on the route, like I'd said, is kind of key, just to feel for it. Although I've been on the route loads of times, I like to just get back on it, have a feel for it again. And then that's pretty much it, running up to it. That's the main training block. When it comes to miles, I usually try and, again, like, I'm a busy guy. Like, I've got my own fitness business. Like before, when I wasn't so busy, my members have grown and everything like that. So a big mileage week would be something like maybe 80, 90 miles. Whereas maybe back like a year or two ago, it could have been 100, 110. I would have done that easy. So I don't feel like I need to do that. I try and just make sure that like it's good miles I'm running and no just junk miles. And like I say, like I'll just kind of do, and even a couple of back to backs and stuff. I think they're more valuable than just doing like I wouldn't. I never really run any more than 50 mile. I don't like running more than 50 mile in a training run. Probably more 40-ish, that kind of distance. If I'm going to tell you, where like a lot of people maybe do like a fling or something like that. I wouldn't do that. Like I'd rather save some in the tank and then go out the next day and do. So I've got some fuel, top up again at night, and then go out and do a back-to-back run. I feel like that suits me better rather than doing a 50 miler or something. I think it's too much, just personally. So that's my training strategies.
I'm interested on the mental side, or doing maybe you didn't think it 192 miles. I don't know if you think it was an out and back, but you obviously must know there's going to be a mental challenge for being out there for that length of time. So was there preparations that you put in place? Do you have a coach that coaches you, Scott?
Yes, I do. I've had 3 good coaches just because I coach as well, but I believe in getting coached as well. I love it. I love just bouncing off somebody, just having a chat. I love just being planned, like having that work done in case I'm going to overcommit myself or, stress myself that I couldn't do the training, things like that. So then they can do the guesswork for me. So like ever since Casey, then I had Oren Smith. He's done the West Highland Way. I met him on the Dragons back race. Brilliant guy, nice guy for the Island Man. Just a top boy. And I was doing the spine race, and he'd done it. And so I thought I would work with him. Absolute legend. And his training was brilliant too. So good friend of mine. We've done different stuff together. And then recently I had a wee break. I was overcommitting at work, being a busy fool. It was detrimental to my health. I wasn't feeling great. I wasn't feeling top of my fitness. So I then started saying, right, I need to stop giving all my time away to everybody else. Like some of my guys are racing. Like, say it was in a Sky Ultra. I was there for the full weekend. So I was then coming back trying to then get back to work on a Monday morning and then try and catch up on some of the sessions I was missing. So that I was then saying, right, I can't do this all the time. I need to, although I want to be there to support everybody else, my race team and everything else, I need to be thinking of myself more and be a bit more selfish. So I'd stopped doing a lot of that, like personally turning up to everybody's races and just trying to coach them like before they went to the race and give them some advice and let them do the work themselves and learn for themselves. And then that was better. I then joined, I started getting coached by Keith Wigley, who I'd actually raced against, and I beat him actually, but I'd raced against in the race across Scotland. I'd won the race across Scotland a few years back and took the course record, and he finished second. And lovely guy, good athlete, and but I respected him. He went on to do amazing stuff. Although I kind of respected what he did then, I kind of respected what he went on to do after it. He went on to be like an absolute cracking athlete. Like he races in an elite trail team now, and I thought to myself, what he learned for, if he does something different, how come he's ended up so good? So I joined him. I wasn't at work with him, and I thought, let's go for that. So I'd work with him, and I thought it might bring my guys more stuff, because I definitely learned some of the stuff that I've took to my race team isn't just through me doing my coaching courses and badges. That was like working with like Casey and Oren, and then now Keith. So all 3 of them have been brilliant. So it's been good working with a coach. I definitely recommend it.
Brilliant. That's a good shout out. A lot of people often wonder to be coached or not to be coached. But I think what we've heard across the piece for a number of the guests we've had on, the coach makes a massive difference. Depending on what you're wanting to do and what you're wanting to get out of it, a coach can make a massive difference to that. So thank you very much for that. Casey Morgan, by the way, season 2, episode 20, also a season closer. So we're in good company tonight. You've mentioned crew as well, and I'm not wanting to put you on the spot, but I'm just about to do that. I don't want you to miss anybody out. Who were your main players? Who were your main folk? Right,
so the Monument Media guys were I'm going to call them my crew, because I've never ever had somebody kind of document or like follow you and film a race, and I'm kind of, I'm getting older now, and I'm thinking it was more personal. I wanted something, a memory of this. Like I thought, you know what, I run a fitness business, it's good for my guys. Like I've got like over 350 members in my gym. I thought, you know what, it's going to be good for them, for their motivation. Like after this, it's going to be good for other people who watch it, inspire people. So I wanted to do it, and these guys get dropped. Graham and Josh, or it's Josh's business, Monument Media, and they've done stuff for the West Highland Way, and I was like, right. So I looked at these, and I got in contact with him. He said I'd be happy to do it, and then he told his dad and Graham had done the West Highland Way. A cracking guy straight away messaged me, said I'm well up for this, and they knew John Kynaston well, and his dad did, Graham, and they were like, this means something to me now, and he's going, I want to be a part of this. So they got on board, and they were part of my crew, and they were there from start to finish. My wife, Kerry, my daughter, Dakota, who's 7, she would crew. She loves crewing me. She loves it. And she was there the full time. And then there was Chris Saunderson, the guy who he had to be there because it was his idea. So he was ground support for the full thing. Absolute legend, that bloke, by the way. Like, if you ever need a crew, he's your man. Like, he'll turn up with steak and all sorts of stuff for himself so that he makes it comfortable. But he's really, really handy, and he takes it. He takes good pride in it, and so he was good. There was Pauline. There was should I say everybody? Because there was loads of people.
You hate it now.
Yeah.
Right. Battle them off. Pauline.
There was Callum, Laird, Pauline Galloway. There was Sandy Pow. There was Chris McDonald. There was Mark Willis. There was Graham. There was also Gordon McDonald, Sal Blades. There was Andy Darlin. There was Kerry Gallagher. There was Craig McQueen. There was. Yeah, that's the gist here.
Are you looking at a photograph in your head and just going?
I should have had those written down. But yeah, that was pretty much everybody. So they guys, John Inman as well. So they guys, they guys took a part and ran with me a section all the way along.
Awesome, thank you, and well done remembering everybody. That's absolutely phenomenal, man. Absolutely phenomenal. Great that the family's involved too. That plays a massive part in the motivation and getting things done. And you're mentioning about 350 members. You can just feel the support you'd have got for them, before, during and after as well. Brilliant.
Yeah, 100%.
I want to speak a wee bit about something you touched on there, which must have been really important to Neil, would be your nutrition plan. What did that look like for you, Scott? What was what's your preferred stuff, or what were you fueling yourself with?
Yeah, so I knew that kind of through all the events I've done in the past, I was like, right, what kind of works with me is trying to eat whole foods whenever I can, whenever I got to checkpoints, trying as well as I could, like typical stuff like, hot noodles, potatoes, like all the stuff that people normally like, and even a couple of sandwiches, like I think it was peanut butter and jam sandwich at one point. I love soup as well, a wee bit of soup, kind of flushy stuff down. Tea, I love a brew. I love getting a cup of tea. Love a cup of tea. So tea, a wee coffee now and again. I love brushing my teeth. But then during it, when I'm out on the ground, covering ground, I will have some gels, precision nutrition gels. We're working a treat this time. I have I tried the Morton ones in the past and the precision ones, but the precision nutrition ones were the big 90 ones, the big ones. So I was throwing them away. They were good on a treat. So even you touched on it at the start, but the heat was between 30 degrees and 32 degrees. It was absolutely unreal. And I was sick as a dog with the heat at certain points. But the gels were still going down, which was odd. I thought they would be the first thing that I wouldn't want to have. But they were working, so that was fueled me mostly along the way with a few things here and there.
What about hydration? Were you on a carb drink?
Yeah, carb drinks. Morton carb drinks. I had both, right? So I had the precision ones. The carb drinks were starting at the start, and I started probably feeling sick because of those.
Right.
I was getting sick of those, and I was like, nah, I need to come off these. So I knew that although I needed to keep drinking fluids until this kind of food carb kind of sickness would move, So I then was trying to make people understand it was there. Say, guys, I can't eat anymore. And I says, you need to understand that I'm taking stuff in when I'm out. I says, all the stuff that you're seeing me taking, but and this is as much as I can take. But you can see that people are caring and invested in what you're doing, and they want to see you eating. They want to see you eating. They don't see what you're having. So they would, every time you're in, it's like a constantly, you can't actually finish a conversation with somebody. Somebody talks to you and you're trying to answer them, and then somebody else is going, eat. And you're like, will you shut up with the eating, give me a bit. And you're laughing at the same time, because I was always in good spirits. They're going like, oh, don't worry about me, I'm fine. But I'm kind of up to the limits of what I can have. So, but I was kept trying for them. I was like, right, I'll try again. And I would eat a wee bit more, so.
But that's important that you're able to communicate to them that you actually are feeling on the move.
Yeah.
Because one of the big things, if anybody's going to take part as part of a crew, is they're like, we've got to get them to eat. You've got to have energy in you. But you're moving. Well, and it's quite phenomenal. I'm going to jump to Fort William, right? It's quite phenomenal that on a day like it was on the 11th of July, in that heat you've just described, 19 hours, 43 minutes for the West Highland Way in day conditions, man. That's unbelievable. Was there...
But wait a minute, like 1943, we're keeping in mind you're about turning and shooting back away.
We're only halfway up. This is the out.
As a standalone time, 1943, magnificent. Like, most folk, I know, would absolutely bite your hand off for that. So,
one of the big aims for people entering the West Highland Way race is to go sub 24 hours.
Yeah.
Another one would be any other hour after that. But to do it but sub 20, there's not a lot of folk will hit a sub 20 with regards to the numbers that enter the West Highland Way race. So it's quite phenomenal. But my question about that out, before we think about the back, is what was the most challenging, forget the heat, what was the most challenging part of that outward journey, Scott, to Fort William?
So I think you're saying forget the heat. I'm going to go back to that and say no, it was the heat, because like my mindset is probably the best thing about me. I would never be the best. If we were to take a West Highland Way start line, I wouldn't say I'd be the best person on that start line. I would never say that. I would never back myself to be the best person on the start line. I would definitely think I've got a better time than what I did when I first started all this, but I'm still not going to back myself. I would still say I'll do my best and I'll be wherever I am. However, my mental strength is the best thing about me. So I never ever, I was always getting done when I was climbing Conic Hill. That was the first time, because that first time, everybody says, "Oh, that first." It's not easy, is it? You know, when you're running from Mulgai to Conic Hill, it's not easy. People say it's easy, but it's not. It's easier, but it's not easy when you're running any section. But when you're running along there, you're tapered, you're ready, you're in the zone. It is easier. So you're prepared. You only know it's easy when you hit Conic Hill, when you're doing your first climb. And I was doing that first climb, the unknown, how I was going to feel going up Conic. I actually said to the guys, because every section I did, there was somebody joined me. So they just so happened I had two people. I was lucky I had two people in this section from Drimmen. I only had 1 and 2 Drimmen, and I had 2 people from Drimmen wanted to run this next part. And they joined me, and I was running up there, and I was running, and I remember saying to these guys, I said, I don't know if I'm going to walk it or run it. And they were like, oh, it's up to you. And I says, no, I know, but I don't know if I'm too early to run. I says, I'm running all this. I'm going to run the flats. I'm going to run the downs, but I don't know if I'm too early. I feel like. And then they were probably thinking, well, you're our coach, because it was mostly guys I trained. So, and I was laughing to myself, thinking they're like, shut up, don't ask us. So I started getting up, and I actually turned around and seen them hanging because of the heat. because it was like scotching, like, and I'd set off at, it was 4 o'clock in the afternoon, so I'm reaching here tea time, and I'm going up this, and I turned around, and I was trying to talk to them. I turned around, and I could hear them breathing, going. I was going, oh no, like, so I started. I goes, you're right, and they're like, yeah, and they're going, you're killing us, and I knew right there and then, and it's oddly like people will know, like every day, like people listening to this will go, there's a time where they go, this is a good day, and you're having a good day, and I knew at that point I'm having a good day. And I remember saying into myself, I'm going to smash this. I'm going to absolutely smash this. And I knew I also didn't want, I could actually see, we're halfway up Conic Hill, and I could see the media boys at the top. And I'm going, I don't want to make these guys look daft here in front of them. So I was like, I'm playing it, screwing up, So I'm kind of watching my pace. So I was like, well, I was trying to chat to them, and I also knew that they were feeling it. And so I was like trying not to go too fast, but it did feel comfortable. So we get up past those, and we're running. These guys we're running single file, and we come off Conic, and the guys are like, it gets to my crew at the bottom, and they're going, you're dropping people. I was going, like, they know people are struggling, and so I was like, it's no the plan. And I was like, so I had a second there, a new guy came, somebody dropped out, and then I cracked on again, and I was aware of that, the fact that people were struggling. However, it was my day, so that wasn't planned. So I didn't want that to happen, but also it was about me. So I also knew that, and I was like, well, I can't help that. And I know that they were only struggling probably with the heat. It was so hot. It was so hot, and they've nicknamed me down this end of the world the Ginger Mexican, because every race I do is 30 degrees. It's nuts. So I did the Dragon's Back race. It was 30 degrees, or 29 degrees. I did the race across Scotland. It was 30 degrees and 31 degrees on the Saturday. And you can look that back up, it's true. 30 degrees on the Sunday. So, and there was a thunderstorm on the Sunday night to clear the air. That was like thunder and lightning. And so winning that race in those conditions was special, and then coming into this, well, every other race was the same since, and then coming into this one, apart from the winter spine, by the way, that definitely wasn't. When I did that one, it was freezing. But when coming into this race, it was people says no one knew it's going to be absolute scorching again, and there it go again. It was we knew it was going to be a hot weekend. People goes, you're going to put it off. I was going, no, well, I've done desert races in Abu Dhabi and everything. I said, so if I can do all these races and I always do all right, I'm going to have a good day, and it's meant to be. So that was it.
Well, the Ginger Mexican.
The Ginger Mexican.
That'd be a good name for a wee food fan or something, wouldn't it, John? Wee
Yeah.
taco van. Just gave me an idea. Nothing to do with running, but it's like that. Like we've all got stuff we excel at, and obviously the heat is something that you can cope with. You spoke about like spewing. You're being sick, physically sick, aye, and for a lot of people, myself included, probably that's a bit of a fucking day ender. Do you know? It's a bit of a, like, do you know? I wouldn't mind kenning myself. How do you bounce back for that? Like, because you're bringing up the stuff that's keeping you going, but the gels were staying down. Was that what I'm hearing?
Well, nothing was so so what happened is for Benglass Farm, I felt great, right up until Benglass Farm. I felt brilliant. Then Craig McQueen one of my boys had took over. So I said to him when we're leaving, I said, my stomach's dodgy. He goes, oh no, you've had this before. So I had this like kind of period of a year. I was having kind of stomach problems. However, and I was using only recently, and especially preparation for this one, I was using IBS tablets as coping mechanism for it, because I didn't know what was causing it, but I knew that was kind of masking the problem. So and I was like, we've got pride. I don't want to drop out of something. And I was like, and the only kind of really thing I've dropped to because it was I went to do the arc attrition last in January, and I went to do that, I decided I basically pulled out because I was sick as a dog through this stomach issue, and I was like, oh no, I've got this name for just grising anything. So I said to myself that day, do you know what? This isn't like a tear or a sore ankle or anything like that. This is like sickness. I don't want to put myself through being sick as a dog. So I decided just not to do it. So my 7-year-old daughter, in the morning of the race, says to me, Dad, we're walking the dogs like that morning before I did this West Highland Way out and back, and she says, Dad, what about if you don't complete this one? I says, what do you mean? And she goes, well, you didn't complete the archaeotrician. And I goes, man, she just hit me right in the stones.
Right in the nads.
And I was like, God, man, hot, like, big time. And I was like, darling, Daddy will complete this. See if Daddy's got one leg. Like, remember, so I was telling her just a wee, that's for another day, by the way, on the spine race, but I'd ran with stress fractures in my shin. I goes, remember what happened with Daddy in the spine? I goes, Daddy will complete this, trust me. Nothing will make me finish this. So, no finish this. And she's going, oh, that's good then. And I was going, don't worry, this is getting smashed. So that was incentive as well, wasn't it? So, so back to this point, Craig McQueen's running with me, and I'm saying, I'm sick as a dog, mate. Feel a bit sick. And he's going, well, he says, you all right? And I says, no, I'll be fine. I'll get through it. I'm going to stop taking in these carb drinks, like I says. I'm going to just run with water, and I'm going to this will flush it out, and it'll be fine. Just the heat and running with these carb drinks and things like that. And it's the experience knowing that. And I was, by the way, I listened to one of your podcasts with Marco Consani, and he talked about something like this. And I liked that guy. I thought he's a decent guy. I've never met him, but I met Debbie. I thought that guy's a sound guy. I would love to race against him or something. But sounds very interesting. I love listening to his podcast. But so I'm running along, and I gets to the checkpoint, Auchintyre, and then Mark, one of the other guys I coach, Mark Wallace, he joins me, and Craig drops out, still not feeling well, and we crack on. I says, mate, just so you know, I've not been eating well. I'll try and take on a couple of gels or something, and I managed to take on I took on one gel in that section, and it was a 90 gram of carb gel. Still feeling sick, but no. When I was getting to a couple of wee climbs, I was saying, well, maybe I'll walk this, which I'd been running, I was wanting to run normally. So we carries on through this section. We gets to Bridge of Orchy, and I meet my crew, and I sits down in a chair, and the guys are like, eat all the usual, what they've been saying. And I was going, right, yeah, and I was like, I'll try to eat something else. So I had a pot noodle and some soup and stuff. And next thing, projectile vomited everywhere. And basically what you said, Stephen, how does that affect me? It affected everybody else. I could see it. Everybody else just went flat. Everybody's chat stopped, and they looked at me like, oh no, is this game over here? Game's a bogey. Is he going to throw the towel on? I just got up off my seat, and I says, right, let's go, guys. I said, put my pack on. I says, come on, let's go. Like, I am that type of person. I'm always a cup half full than half empty. I'm thinking, well, I've spewed. I've got it like a bit like a night out. I've got it in my system. Maybe this will help me feel again. I'm always that type of guy. So, me and the boy Mark left again, and he's like looking at me, and he actually said to me, he says, "Do you want a sweet?" And he had this couple of Frutella in his pocket, and I says, "I give me one of them." And they were nice. I had a couple of them, which I didn't have in any of my strategy. I didn't have in my pack. It was just something different. So I had a couple of those, and it was sunlight, and it was a new day, and I was like, mate, I'm ready to go. And I still hadn't been eating well since then, but I was just in this kind of zone. I was like, this is a new day. I says, this is what I'm here for. So let's, and it did, that sunlight coming up, even though I hadn't been fueling yet properly. But I says, right, I'm going to try and eat again. And I started fueling more of these gels and a couple of other things maybe he had. And and I had like a can of Coke as well. I remember having a can of Coke there, and that kind of like, again, you know, when you have flat cola, I think this was a bit fizzy, but you know, when you have flat cola, it usually settles your stomach. So so that was good. And then I got to Glencoe, and I probably a bit like when I got to Glencoe when I did the West Highland Way race. So I remember having a wee kind of bad section before getting there. It felt exactly the same. And I gets in, sits down, just briefly, and it eats like well. I had like this peanut butter and jelly sandwich with some soup and some tea. And then I was like a new man, rocket fuel. I was like, I'm ready to go. I'm ready to go, guys. And so they were like, all right, here he goes again. And so that was it. And I started shifting again, and I felt brilliant. And it was, and I moved probably pretty well all the way to Fort William. I will mention the help that I got again through my crew. So there was a guy in particular I want to mention, Callum Laird. This lad, right? So he's one of my runners in my race team, and he when he's doing his training plan, he sticks to it religiously. But this guy, he just like does everything you say, great, always soaks it up. But he was doing above and beyond. He was like, it was so hot, and I was like really at this point struggling with the heat. You know, like the section for Kinnock leaving to Fort William, it's like some of the valleys. It was like no escape for the heat. It was like 32 degrees, and I was like, man, this is brutal. And I remember running along there thinking, that was tough. That was probably the toughest part there because there was no escape for the heat. It was like an oven. You could actually feel yourself getting into it. Like, and it was just, wow. And this haze of heat. And next thing, Callum would drop into any stream that he's seen and come out with my hat and put it over my head, and he would just soak me with cold water, a bit like you would do like with the ice bandanas and all that. We would get them in when we would seal crew, and Callum would run ahead and grab one. But he was, and it was amazing, brilliant.
Right, man, I'm on the edge, literally on the edge of my seat listening to this. It's brilliant. I love it.
Scott, I'm going to take you to Fort William, and so 1943, we spoke about that you were at the turning point. Was it a case of like round the bollard and back again, round the end bollard of the West Highland Way, and off you went, or did you hear a wee bit of take stock there?
Yeah, so the 1943 wasn't a plan either, so I just want to mention that. It was when I thought about this, I was like, do you know what? Like, you could run a nowadays for me like a 16-hour, hopefully, who knows, or something like that. And like, I would love to do something like that, maybe in the future, maybe this year coming. But I would love to do the West Highland Way just on one way to see what I could get. I might not get it, who knows? But I would love to do that. However, I knew doing it like the out and back thing, I was going to have to be very cautious in my approach. But so I'd thought about it in the weeks running up to it. I thought maybe something like between a 21 and 22 hours. Is that going to be better? Running 24 to me, I know that's amazing for a lot of people. Even more than that, I get it. But for me, running a 24 wouldn't work because of what I was wanting to hit. I wanted a sub 20. My target was a sub 24 out and back, there and back, kind of like. And when you put them two together. And it wasn't going to really matter, like if one was 25. I wanted to, if you put the two of them together, it was going to be under 24 for both. Yeah. So I knew, so probably running 24 wasn't going to do that. I thought I needed to get a couple of hours in the bank. Yep. Yeah. So when I wanted somewhere roughly about 21 to 22. When I was running out, after I'd started feeling better again, and even before that, my first sections, I was on target for that. Then when I was feeling bad in that section, I thought, we'll see how it goes. But then when I got through that week in a bad spell, I felt this, even during the heat, even though I was like conservative with my pace, I was like still on pace for it. Craig McQueen, I'll mention him, one of my runners, he was brilliant with the pace, and he was going, you're still like, we've got one of my runners ran roughly about 22 hours, and so he's going, you're still beating his times. So you're slow and good pace. I was like, great, sorted. So everything was going to plan, and I carried on. I got that's my dogs because my wife's coming home. So I did tell you about this earlier before.
That's all right. That's cool.
It's well.
We'll stop one second. Belle, come here. So Belle. So
we're having a little canine break here, just to let the dogs settle down a wee bit. It's all good. It's all good.
Cora. Yeah.
I feel like I'm just at the turning point of the West Highland Way.
Yeah, so we're at the turning point of the West Highland Way. Sorry about that. That's what happens there. So we're at the turning point of the West Highland Way. I've come in at 90, again, it was a target, coming at 1943. It felt good. It felt good to break 20 hours. It felt like, wow, cool. Like, because it was like, people say they're running hot conditions, and I know they definitely do. Even in the West Highland Way this year, it was hot, it was tough, but they were like, it was like probably 20, 21, 22, something like that. I don't even know the temperatures, but to run in 30 to 32 degrees, it's brutal. It's really tough, and I can only, for folk that have done it, they'll understand what I'm saying. But so I get to that point, and I'm running through Fort William, and the place was heaving, and there's people everywhere, like soaking it up, and I could see it, and it was such a cool day, nice day, and I could then get to Witherspoon's next day. Is it Witherspoon's right next to that finish point in the centre? And I knew that I was like, well, that's a fitting finish because it is the finish in the West Highland Way. So I was wanting to get to there, and I just leave them. I was wanting to get to to there and finish it properly, and so I gets to the finish of the finish point, and I sit down next to the the wee man sitting on the bench, and I went, and Josh from Monument Media, he was capturing it all, and so was Callum, my support runner at the time. So they took a couple of pictures and videos of it, and the drone was following me through. So everybody in Fort William was like starting to realise that there's something going on here. So they're all drinking pints and all that outside Witherspoon's and looking at it, going, what's going on here? So I goes to put my hand around this wee guy, at the finish point. And as I touched this kind of statue thing, the finish point of the West Highland Way, it was absolute scalding hot, like red hot, and actually near enough burnt my arm, like holding on to him, because you're not thinking about it. And I'm holding on, like, and I've actually flipped my hand back, like, oh wow, because it was red hot. So I quickly let go of that. But it was like, people often are constantly asking me, was that the hardest point of the West Highland Way, getting to Fort William? And it wasn't. It was just brilliant. It was nice because I felt as if I'd achieved, like, even no matter what was going to happen after that, I'd achieved like you say, a sub 20 West Highland Way in those conditions, which was a good underdoing anyway. Like, it was brilliant. And then I just actually wanted, it was quite easy to answer the next part, it was quite easy to leave, because I didn't feel like I belonged in a town that were all supping pints, enjoying the day. I was like, I need to get out of here and just get on with this.
So you're arriving in Fort William around about lunchtime on the Saturday.
Yep.
Yeah. Yep. And it's been biling in the afternoon, and you're away back up the fire track that way.
Yeah.
And have you got anything like, the sort of sleep deprivation stuff? Are you all right on that front?
Yeah, so my plan, when I did, like, I'll go back to even this race across Scotland, so it was like 220 miles. I did that in 58 hours. So I this is the things I've got to compare it to. So this is why I mention it. No, for a look at me. But when I'd done that, I was like, right, what can I compare this to? When I'd done the spine, I couldn't compare it to the spine because I'd run that through injured, so I was taking extra breaks in that when I got to checkpoints. But when I was good and healthy on the race across Scotland, I was like, I actually only took one sleep after 24 hours, and I took 45 minutes. And it was like a military precision. I says, wake me up in 45 minutes and I will be out of here and on the hour. And they were like, are you sure? Can this waver? And I'm going, no, it happens. And they were like, right, that's what it is. And that's what happened. And then that was 24 hours. And then I was still with like second place at the time. But because I was so strict in that approach, I then left those. I was gone. And then I was in first place for the rest of the year. The rest, and I thought that worked for me then. So this time, and then after 24 hours again, on the race across Scotland, I then had another race. And then this one, I was like, right, this is going to take me less than 48 hours. 48 hours. I'm going to have one 45-minute sleep. That was what I was thinking when I first planned it. Then when I got close to the race, I was like, right, I'm not going to have 45 minutes sleep. I'm being too kind to myself. I'm going to have 30 minutes sleep, and that's it. That's all you're getting. Because I'll be honest, like I love it to hurt, and I like it to hurt a lot, and that's what I look forward to. That's the types of races I like, and I was like, you've asked for this. You know what you're expecting. 30 minutes is enough. So I do this. I kind of mentally train myself for what's ahead. And I tell myself these things, and people are going to listen to this going, right, okay, no bother. But that's the truth, and I do that. So when I've kind of come into this, I said, right, I will have the now as we've come into the challenge. I've said I'm going to have this sleep. I don't know when I'm going to have it, and I'm not going to plan. It's going to be when I need it. So it's not going to be in my head. It wasn't going to be at the turning point, because that was too soon. I thought it was going to be at Glencoe on the way back. That's what I started thinking. And then I'll fast forward. Should I tell you what? So then I fast forwarded to, I was running past, fast forward the bit you were asking about earlier, leaving Fort William and stuff. But I then didn't have a sleep because it was a new day. It was a new day. Like obviously it was lunchtime when I got to Fort William. It was still light when I got to Kinlochleven. It was still light when I got to Glencoe, and I was like, I'm not ready for a sleep. So I thought I'm just going to go as long as until it gets dark. Then I'll probably sleep then. So I actually said to him, he goes, you're not going to factor in a sleep here. Are you all right? And I says, no, fine. I says, I'm going to have a sleep when I get to probably Benglass Farm. That's where I'm going to sleep. And they were like, right, cool. And I was enjoying the new chat with the new people, having fresh company each section. And then I gets to, I will mention before we get down to that point, but when I was leaving Fort William, I remember thinking, oh, here we go, this big climb. Use not, everybody runs that. It's like feels like it's never ending when you're running down to the finish at Fort William and down the West Highland Way. So I remember going up that, thinking I'm not going to enjoy this. And I was with Callum, and it was actually quite good. He was good to be with at that point, but it was not easy. Like going up that, you're going up that climb, leaving Fort William, and it was baking hot in that heat, middle of the day. That was tough. I kind of walked a good section up because I was like, I need to conserve my energy. I can't be running up this in 32 degrees. I was like, I need to walk this. So I walked a lot of that, and that was the best thing I ever done. And even that was tough, walking up that.
You mentioned coming from Kinlochleven, and your pal was going and getting water in your hat, and you're walking into this furnace.
Yeah.
The thought of going back up that bloody hill, that road, to go back into that furnace, to go back to Kinlochleven, That's some mental strength right there, man. This is honestly, it's phenomenal.
Yeah, like, and like, although I say these things because they were probably, I've got to tell you the top, like, say the toughest part of the races. But it's always problem solving. You go, well, it is what it is. There's nothing. You can't change the fact that you're going to do it. But it's just that was definitely the toughest part of the race. It was tough, or the challenge, and but that was definitely that part. And also when we were going up, leaving, with with three guys: Chris Murray, Craig McQueen, and there was somebody else, but I can't remember. But there was sort of left eight, leaving, heading up to Devil's Staircase on the way back. That was savage as well. You're going up that, and I remember somebody saying to me, "Remember, Scott, when you're heading up the climb, walk in the shade, find the shade and walk up." And I was going, "That's exactly what I'll do. Good cheers for that." And I could not find one bit of shade on the way up there.
That's totally exposed, man.
Where's this bloody shade? I was raging. I was like, "There's no shade going up here." I was like, "I'm sure there must be a bit of shade when we turn the corner," but it was a nightmare.
It's just the time of day that is as well. Can, like, and the angle
probably
where that bit is, it wouldn't have been helping you. But listen, man, it didn't deter you too much. The lack of shade.
Oh yeah. So after that, fast forward to like, I mean, you can take it back to wherever, but we were running. It was getting dark, and I was running into. It was before Bridge Orchid. It was running into Tyndrum,
right? Okay.
Running into Tyndrum, and I seen my mum, and I seen them. That was a brilliant lift, like seeing my mum, because like, I wasn't quite sure if she'd make it to the finish. Like where she would be, because I actually didn't discuss it. I didn't talk a lot, which was odd the week before it, because I quite like talking to my mum and my dad and my brother and Kevin. Like, my brother Kevin's always good. Like, he's although he does things himself, like does ultras, he's invested. He always tells me he's inspired with the things I do, and it's nice. It's nice to hear that, because not often people want to tell you that, even if they take an inspiration for you. So, and we love our brothers and stuff like that. I love my brothers, and I like hearing that, and it was so. Seeing that he'd already joined. He joined me on the way back, but then seeing my mum there, it was great, and she joined me. It was getting dark, and although I wanted to stop and see her more, I was buzzing. I was on the way back. I was feeling great, and then I quickly joined one of my other support runners. Sandy joined me. A couple of guys dropped to it, and we just cracked on through. And I was like, "Love you, Mum. See you later." And we pushed on, and she was probably like, "I expected him to stop," and I was like, I felt kind of bad, but when you feel good, you feel good, and she understands it. And so I left there, and then I gets to Benglass Farm, and it's in the middle of the night here, and I remember running in, and I always know when I feel tired, because like I've done training things or events, and whenever I think about sleep, I know I'm tired. Or whenever I think about should I sleep, then I know there's a reason for that. Mm-hmm. So I remember saying to Sandy, as I was running down, saying, "Maybe have a wee sleep here at Benglass Farm." And she's going, "Well, if you're thinking about it, you should sleep." And I was going, "I know, I probably will." And we get in, and everybody's getting eaten by midges and everything else, and here they were covered with their nets, and they were like, "How are you?" And my mum's here. And I remember Dakota and Kerry no being at this one. They were at most of my checkpoints, but they weren't at this one because they were going to go ahead and get some sleep, because the wee one's only 7, so they were away, and they would meet me at the next one. And I said to all my support team, I said to Chris and everybody else, I said, "I think I might get a sleep here." And they were going, "Well, if you're saying it, you should." Same as what Sandy said. And I was going, "Aye." Then I looked at them all, and I was eating something, and I thought I started probably because I was tired, felt like it was a game. "You're telling me to sleep, so I'm not going to sleep." So I goes, "No, I'm not going to sleep." And I goes, "I'm going to go." And they were like, "Thought you says you're going to have a sleep." And I goes, "No, I'm not sleeping." I goes, "I'm away." And they were like, right, okay then. And this guy's this next bit's probably the kind of the funnest bit, and the bit I need to mention, because this is a bit, because I'm so tired, this is the bit I'm most tired at. I wasn't tired really at any other bit apart from this bit. I was getting tired, but this bit I'm tired. And one of my PTs from my gym, Andy Darling, he loves running as well. There's mostly marathon running, but starting to do more ultras and stuff like that. But he joins me, and it's just him solo. And he's like looking at me, "Are you all right?" And I says, "Aye, I'm good. Let's go." So he takes the pace at the front. But unlike everybody else was close to me, like talking to me, good chat. Andy just sets off. And you know that section, the next section, that first section, like going from Benglass to Inversnaid, like brutal. When you've got, my feet were killing me, throbbing me at this point, because I was running in like the heat, so hot conditions, running like just wear and tear of the running through. Yeah, just the tough conditions. I had blisters in my toenails, all the usual jazz, like, so I was really like kind of feeling it. My feet, the balls of the feet were sore. The blisters under like the foot 3 toes each foot. So he joins me and runs off like the clappers, and I'm like, "Andy," and he turns around and goes, "Yes, mate," and I goes, "Mate, can you run with me?" And he's going, "Oh yeah, no worries." I goes, "You keep leaving me and turn and run." And he goes, "Oh, sorry, I didn't realise." And we had a wee laugh about that. And so for this point, whatever I've said to him changes him. And it gets him, like, in my head. I don't even know if it was, but in my head, because I'm, like, I've suffered badly in the spine race and race across Scotland with hallucinations. But now I'm light. I'm not in full hallucination mode, but I'm in light hallucination mode, where some of the rocks were like, I was seeing grey hair was coming at these rocks, and it was growing quite fast. And I was like turning around to the side, going like that, as if to say, "What's going on here?" Like, this grey hair's growing at the rocks, but it was just obviously like, I don't know if it was moss or I can't even remember, right? But I was like, "Man, wake up, Scott!" And I slapped myself in the face a couple of times. And then I've not had not one minute of sleep. And I said to Andy, I says, "Andy," and he turned around and goes, "Yes, mate." I goes, "See if I sleep in the trail here, you think what would happen?" And he's probably like, "What are you asking me for again?" Like the rest of them at the start of this. And he's like, "I don't know, like, as long as you don't sleep for long." And I goes, "I might have a wee sleep." And he goes, now he ran ahead, right, again. I'm like, I'm trying to focus because I'm like so tired. And I seen him running ahead, and I'm listening and I'm looking, and he's like, and he goes, he's on his phone sending a voice note. He says, "I think he's going to go for a sleep here. We've got this group chat that we made for all the support runners and the media guys and that, Graham and Josh and that. Everybody's in this." And I'm like thinking, he's telling him I'm going for a sleep. That's right. "Andy, I'm not going for a sleep." And he turns around, he goes, and I'm kind of like, I'm not his gaffer, but like, it's my gym, and he's a PT man. And he's like, and he says to me, I never says you're going for a sleep." "I know worries, no worries." That goes, "I heard you saying I'm going for a sleep." And so then we were going again, and he turns around and he goes, "You need to eat." So he turns and passes me, the Soaring bar. The Soaring, so Soaring's brilliant when I'm on climbing, but I don't like eating Soaring when I'm running. Some folk do. I just don't like eating it. It's too kind of tangy in my mouth and that, and chewy. And so he passes me a Soaring, and he goes, he notices I'm not eating well, and he goes, "I want you to eat." And I was going, "Nah, I'll have this gel." And he goes, so I had half a gel, and he goes, and he's obviously thought, "Do you know what? I need a kind of more manly, thorough approach." And he turned around and goes, "Eat it." And I goes, "All right." And I goes, "I didn't want to eat this Soaring bar." And I goes, "I'm going to have to eat this Soaring." I goes, "Right, okay." And I'm so tired. Now I'm looking at Andy like I'm scared of him. And I'm going, And I genuinely was like starting to get a bit scared of him, like, which I'm definitely not. He's the nicest, quietest guy ever. But I'm like going, yeah, no worries. And I was chewing this sorry and going, guys, Nick, man, I'm like chewing it up, going, I try to drink my water, try to swallow it, and he's looking at me every now and again. I'm going, forcing a smile when he turns in his headlight, and I'm going, I'm eating it. And then I was going, spitting him when he wasn't looking, spitting it out. And he goes, did you eat that? I goes, yeah, I ate it. And so we're running along, and he's going, and he's thinking, this is working. So he starts doing this more often. He'd turn around and go, eat this. And I would go, right. And I would like neck a gel or something. And I was going, man, I can't wait to get rid of him. And he turned out like a wee sergeant major then. But so anyway, we get past this section. And I was hating it. Like again, like I loved it in the way out, like I was enjoying it. But on the way back, my feet were sore. I was kind of letting that trail dictate my pace. I was walking a bit more than I wanted to because I was so sore in my feet. And then I just get so pissed off actually at one point, and I gritted my teeth and I goes, sorry about the swearing, but I goes, fuck it, this is on. And I just started running. And Andy's like, turned around and goes, you're killing this, mate. You're killing this. I was going, yep. This is it. I'm good to go. I says, if I walk at that pace, I'll never get this finished. So I kind of just started trooping away again, and I was moving really fast, and well, no, I wasn't moving fast at all. I was moving pretty slow actually, but way faster than I was. And I gets past this. I gets to the end of this section. We does both sections along the lock side, and I take the low path. Both because I figure that's the tough section. So I was never ever going to have somebody coming back in me and saying, that was good, but you took the high path. And it wasn't that's somebody that done it before it was less greater than I did. It was just the fact that I knew that everybody always talks about the low path or the high path. Low path's harder than the high path. So I was always going to do the low path. So I did the low path, got that finished. And then I met this guy, Stephen Benson, and we actually had a brilliant run. And I started being able to run better, and it wasn't as sore in my feet. And we did the next section all the way to the Conic Hill, and I was again. It was a new day, and I was just felt fresh as a daisy. The carbs were going down easier, and I met my older brother Kevin. He hadn't been running for a while, so he was wanting to do a wee stint over Conic Hill. So I stayed with him over Conic to Drimmen. And also Paul Manson, you probably know him, the random runner. Nice bloke, does a lot of stuff on YouTube and stuff. So he joined me, that was nice, a good chat. And we ran to Drimmen. They boys dropped out, and then more of my support team joined me. Up until I was a few miles out, and my wife Kerry joined me for the last part. But before that, Keith Hughes, who had the previous FKT on it, he come and met me. There's a part of that route, that flat section, that the name, I can't remember what it's called, but he joined me there, probably about 10 miles to go, and I'd never met Keith, and he like, I didn't actually know he was an Aussie either. So I'm running along, or kind of trying to run along there at the pace, whatever pace was fine for me at the time. And with the guys, and this Keith stopped me and goes, "Excuse me, guys," he says, "Do you know the way to Fort William?" And I'm looking at him, and he'd got the big hat on, and I'm looking at him, and I thought, there's something odd about this. And then he goes, "Do you know the way to Fort William?" And I look up again, and I look at his T-shirt, and I'm going, "Aye." And I just started laughing. And I'm going, "The guy's got a West Highland Way finisher T-shirt on, but he's asking me the way to Fort William." And I was going, "Buddy, you don't need the way to Fort William." And he goes, "I'm Keith Hughes." I goes, "I should have known." And I goes, "Oh wow, pleasure to meet you." And it was what it was so nice, and because he did reach out to me before, because he knew I was doing it. He reached out to me and says, "Good luck for it. I hope you smash it. I've heard for one of your running, for Chris Anderson actually at the West Highland Way race, you were doing it. He says, and I know a wee bit about you, so he says, I think you're going to smash it, and all the best. And he says, if I can be there, I'll be there. And he turns up. Tom met me and says, do you want any fruit? Gave me some watermelon. And that was great. I took that and I says, thanks, mate, appreciate that. And he says, I'm not going to go to the finish because it's your day. So, which is an awful nice thing again for somebody to do, which he could have done, and I wouldn't have cared. But he says, like, this is your day. He says, the torch is over to you. The baton's been passed, and he says, crack on, mate. He says, you've smashed it. And then that was it, and it kind of fueled me towards the finish. I will say before you ask any more questions, I've not really give you many, but there was a stop at the bridge on the way out, and I paid a wee kind of tribute to John Kynaston there because I knew that was his bridge. I stopped here, and I had a silent moment there. That's all I'll say. Just thinking, you know what? If you can fuel me with anything, pal, fuel me on this heat because this is crazy. I says, like, give me some, and I think he did. He got me through that tough spell. So I definitely think he was there with me on the way up and back. So yeah, that was it, and that was
poignant. I seen a photo of you with that moment. I think it was on Adrian Stott's write up that he done with you, and aye, that's special. And you're right. I can if that has helped you along the way, just in terms of up here, and then aye, John, I'll have propelled a few folk up that bit with the same.
Yeah,
powerful stuff. Geez, right, wait a minute. Can I just get us to the finish? Because then it'll lead into a couple of questions, I think. So you're relatively speaking motoring along at this point, yeah? Propelled by Keith, and you're relatively speaking, no in the grand scheme of things probably, but you're making good steady progress towards Mulgai. And when was it that you kind of like, one, you knew you had it all in the bag, there wasn't any doubt, but what also was it feeling like when you were kind of coming in through Mugdock Park and stuff like that towards the finish? What time of day was that?
What time of day was that? It was the middle of the day. I'm not sure exactly the time, but it was. It felt like the middle of the day with a game of the heat. So we're running towards there. I knew my wife. I'd say I didn't want it. So I didn't want any party having, like, my race team were going to join me at certain parts there. I knew there might be a couple of sections that I might have to run. I would run on my own. I wasn't really caring because I actually love running my own. But I said to them, I says, like, I don't. Pauline Galloway, one of my runners, she was like kind of running the coordinating who was going to run with me in certain bits, so they all were going to be together. And I says, just don't tell me if there's going to be somebody with me or not. If there is, there is. So I says, but I want my wife to run the last part with me, coming into Mulgai, and I also want her to run the descent because I know she loves the descent. So I want her to run the descent from the Devil's Staircase, so she can go up and meet me there and run for there to Cannot Leaving. So she did that on the way out, and it was brilliant, just spending that bit of time there. And then also, because she's always there in the background. They're always, the crack. Like, they never actually get to share a party yet, like be in that space. So I felt like she was in that space, so it was good. And then coming in, and so when she took over, like 4 mile for the finish or whatever, that was great. And knowing that she was going to come in, I didn't know what I was going to come into, and people had been talking about it. Oh, there's big crowd there for you. You must be this guy, and blah blah blah. And I was going, it's such a big thing. Like, there's people I didn't know, like all the way along the return leg, especially with the people, like, it was kind of known who I was, like saying, oh, you're like, by the way, you're absolutely smashing this. But as closer as we got, like in that last section, it definitely felt apparent like people must have been at the finish, because there was maybe people walking out of Mulgai and going, because of their reaction to me, I was like, no, there's people there. And I was like, oh no. And it kind of, initially, my initial thought about that was cringed. I was like, oh God, this is all about you. I was like, is it going to be too much? Like, where you run in here and there's like so many people there. And then when I turned that corner off the trail and you got that wee ramp, in fact, just before I got to the ramp, it was electric, unreal, like electric. Like there was like, I would say, well, I've been playing it down when I've been talking to people, saying, oh, there was maybe 20 odd people. I would say, looking back in the video and looking back on, there must have been like 40 people there. And you obviously get people in the bystanders as well. It's like Costa Coffee and Greg's and everything like that, getting involved in it. So there was like probably like 40 odd people there, like going mental. They had made like this kind of funnel for me to go through, getting in, coming off that wee bridge or like that wee ramp, coming into the finish point. And wow, I couldn't see it empty at all. Like, I would love to say that I could see people. I was scared to look at people. I was like, oh no, don't look at empty. Just look at that. And I could see the media guys in front of me. And then I just touched the finish point. And then I think the first person to congratulate me was a guy who had a couple of scoops sitting on the bench. And he was like, well done. You know, he'd obviously been told what I was doing. And then my daughter and my other daughter, Cora, was there as well, which was amazing. She's 17 and it was good. She doesn't really come to many of them for my finish. So I was a bit over the moon with that. Like, so just having all those people, my dogs were there that you've heard. And so they were there, and that was just unreal. Like, it was not cringed out. I was just absolutely buzzing just to finish it. Like, I wasn't thinking about time at that point. I wasn't thinking about the finish time. I was just thinking about, wow, this is done. I've wrapped this up. I've done what I've set out to do. I wanted to do a double out and back, whatever you want to call it, and I've done it. I've done it under the conditions I've been set with was the icing on the cake. It made it the challenge it did.
Brilliant. Way back when you were going out and you said you were coming off a Conic Hill, and you said, I think you said something, this is my day. I'm gonna make this happen. But there's a hell of a lot happened between Conic Hill going out and then finishing at Mulgai. What a story, man. And you've told it really, really well. I feel a wee bit sorry for Andy Darlin, thinking he was being a wee bit aggressive on the lock side. Eat this.
But he's actually enjoyed this moment because he tells all his PT clients this, because like I've actually seen him or heard his PT clients then come and tell me, going, by the way, Andy's told me this story, this other one, Andy's told me, and I'm going, that's great. But it's a true story. Like, I was petrified him. And they were like, how, he's telling him, how can Scott be petrified of me? And he's going, but I was scared stiff. I was getting turning in. And I was always wanting to smile. I was going like that, trying to, like, I was half asleep, like my eyes were half asleep, and he would turn around and go, are you all right? Or turn around and go, right, it's time to eat. And I would go, yeah. And, you know, try and smile.
Just to clarify then, did you sleep at all? No sleep?
Not 1 minute.
Wow.
Not 1 minute.
Normal guy.
Yeah.
Only because other folk were telling you to sleep. I'm not sleeping.
It was all a tactic.
You're starting to kind of understand what kind of type of character I am. But that's probably why I liked that guy, Marco Consani. I've never met the guy, but I was listening to him going, actually, he sounds like for somebody who's, what you know better than me, what age he is now, he's in his 50s or something. He sounds like, even still, when I was listening to him, I was going, that guy still get that kind of savage mentality. He still sounds like it. For how he speaks, I thought he'd had 10 coffees as well. And I'm going, this guy sounds like he's in his late 30s or 40s. And then he says, I was listening to what he was saying, he's going, yeah, but I'm not that guy anymore. And I just like to go for a park run and run with my pals. And I'm going, right, I don't believe that. You you sound as if you're chasing every minute, you know. But he kind of sounds a lot like myself, like just certain things he come away with, and I'm going, you know. And so I always remember this saying, a guy, Trevor Psychos or something, the American guy that I'd raced against at World's Toughest Mudder. And he's also won the Race Across Scotland one year. And it was him that inspired me to do that. But nice guy, good pal of mine. And but ex-Marine as well, I should add, US Marine. But he said, nice guys don't win races. And listen, although we're nice guys, although we love to support everybody, he's kind of right. You know, there's got to be a point in a race where you've got to be ruthless. And that's basically when I go off at something else. And I said about Marco, he had that wee streak, you know, that he's obviously, there was that bit where he was playing games with people during races, telling them lies and stuff and things like that. And I'm going, and it takes me back to when I won the Arran 2-day event, and I was going up the day 2, and I had a half an hour lead or something in day 1, and I was like going up the first climb. So you basically go up the other side of the goat fell like a way up, and this guy was quite close to me, and I'm thinking, all right, I've not had anybody close to me in day 1, but on day 2 there's a guy right on my shoulder, and I'm thinking maybe he's just really good because that's the one with most climbs in it. So I thought maybe he's really good at the climb. So he's right up next to me, and he says to me, "Oh, it's the downhills I don't like. I'm good in climbs." I says, "Oh, you smashed that." He goes, "I don't like the downhills though." And I thought, well, I'm gonna like open a can of wood pass on you here on the downhill. When I did, I put a K on him just on the next downhill, and I never seen him again. But what Marco says in that last chat you had, was it was a more a reverse psychology, so it was different to me. He says that he actually said to them that, oh, you know, about the climbing. What was it again? The climbing.
Rubbish at climbing.
Rubbish. So the guy then pushed on the climbs.
Aye. And
so
then whopped them on the flats.
Aye. Then he whopped them on the flats. But mine was more, I kind of listened to somebody wet behind the ears, his downside, and I capitalised on that. But it was funny, regardless, it was kind of similar. We were strategising on other people's, you know, misfortune. So it sounded like a similar guy, but nice guy. But yeah, so there is a wee bit of that in there.
Aye, definitely. John, I think we could speak about this all night. I think, Scott, like John says, you've told a magnificent story. Hopefully, well, this is a really good record and legacy of it as well. Kind of like for you to keep, you know, and stuff to add to the stuff that, you know, the Monument Media guys are doing. Is that something that we'll be able to consume at some point? That
will be out very, very soon. As in, it's finished now, and they want me to come and see it, or we're going to have like a wee release for and maybe donate to charity, just a wee opening thing before it goes on YouTube. Brilliant. But I can't wait to see that.
The like premiere.
Yes, it was actually their idea. They says, why don't we maybe, because you're like, I've raised like £250,000 for charity, and they says, why don't you? And they know that, and they says, why don't we maybe do another charity thing, and we donate it to a good cause or the same cause. And we take maybe £5 or a skill off somebody or whatever you want to charge, and we have a wee premiere, or we just come and watch it at our house together, and then we just open it up and that's it. But
brilliant. I can't wait. I can't wait because I've got loads of sort of mental images in my head of it all just after you saying it. So it's going to be good to see the tail kind of come out.
We've seen lots of the social media running about the race that your supporters were doing as well, but to see that polished thing will be brilliant.
I know.
It'll be absolutely brilliant.
What I will say with they guys, they had said to me after it, we had a kind of debrief. They goes, it's such a shame the way that you were so kind of, because there was and I was listening to them because they tell a different story as well, because we all tell a different story, don't they? And they say because of the way you were kind of relentless in your approach, and you were always like positive and always going to get this done no matter how hard it got, like when you got sick and stuff like that. he goes, it's a shame because when you kind of also take away from how hard it actually was, because you're also going, right, well, that's happened, let's go. So, which
They're
was
rooting
a
for some
nice,
jeopardy.
which was a nice thing. It was a nice kind of praise for the guys, and I was like, actually, that's felt like, you know, because sometimes it goes like you will never get angry with your crew. You never got annoyed. You never said a bad word. You were always like happy to see every day, and you know. So that was nice, but
They're looking for some drama. Okay,
aye,
do you know that getting that
you're
reaction?
looking
He's
for
going
me
to
to
give
come
him the
in.
pass.
They've got
And
all that.
Andy's going to get a fucking rap in the pass in a minute.
They've got all that scary music lined up, but not get a chance to use it.
Aye.
Ken what I mean?
Probably thought I was going to throw things about and things like that.
Aye, lose your shit.
What about how recovery after an event like that, after an adventure like that? How did your body feel in the weeks after?
Again, I think it's always, every event's different, and I think it's not just like how well you've done in it, or what the race distance is. You can have 100 mile and you take weeks and weeks. I think you need to listen to your body, be kind to your body, and just go with the flow, and have like a few weeks, and I say it's definite 2 weeks and nothing near enough, doing next to nothing, and then toy with things. Start maybe in the gym and have a couple of gym sessions, and then I'll have a couple of easy runs, and no hard sessions, like just a couple of zone 2 if it's all right. You know, like I'm not talking about a couple of hours, I'm talking about like 8 up to 40 minutes, and just see how you are. That's my approach. And then sometimes you can try these things and they work, and sometimes you try it and you're not ready. What I've been finding is, and because we're like, I'm over a month on now, is my zone 2, like my easy runs were fine. I could run, I could hill walk, I could do those types of things without any problems. But it was my workouts in the gym. I love my workouts. I love training in the gym, functional training, doing strength training, and also like hard functional workouts. But I couldn't do those. I couldn't go in and do the workouts I was doing, and I was getting DOMs really easy for doing kind of 3/4 sessions. So I feel like you just need to listen and go, right, well, I'm not ready for that. So that's it. So I feel like I've had a good recovery. I'm just back for Chamonix for a few days there, and I've been doing some hiking and things, and like some light runs, and I had a good time. But yeah, like I did that with the family. It was nice. But yeah, I think it was a good time to do that. Just chilling. I'm ready to go now. Ready for whatever's ahead, and just see what happens.
We are approaching the 2-hour mark in our season finale. So, what is next for Scott Brown?
Well, as I mentioned earlier, which I'm not ashamed to mention, I had that arc of attrition blip. And then I also never got to do the Bob Graham because so I'd say the curse of the Bob, where I had this stomach issue which stopped me from doing it twice. Also, like I had this knee issue that stopped me doing it. So I'm going to complete the Bob Graham. I'll do that probably early next year, which I genuinely believe I've got no issue doing. So I'll do that, get that tick in the box, because it's haunting me that I've not done it.
You mentioned Easter for that. Is that your preferred time of year to do that for a specific reason, or?
Do you know what? I feel like I want a kind of big either summer endeavour again, like I've done this year, or else a summer race. I would love to do the West Highland Way race. I don't really just want to drop that in and say I would love to either do that or the one you guys do, the Lakeland 100 or something. I'd love to do one of those. Like I respect those races. Like no means think any of them would be easy. So whenever you're pushing, I would love to do one of them. It's going to be tough, but yeah, like I loved it. And I could see that I would love the Lakeland just for watching it and knowing like some of my mates have done it. Some of them have told me about it, and I'm like, yeah, I fancy a crack at that. Also want a crack at the West Highland Way. So I don't know. Still, I don't know what to do again.
You got options. I would love to see you at Lakeland, man.
I know.
Honestly.
1st of September, the battle opens, John? 1st of September.
Yeah, I would love to do that. But so the archaeotrician, I'm doing for a fact, and I'm doing the bob wherever it fits in, and whatever one of the two I've mentioned is probably leading what's going to happen.
Fantastic, exciting stuff, man! Exciting stuff.
Definitely.
Stevie boy, we're bang on the nose of tours. Take us to the Double D.
The Dialect Dictionary, Scott. An Ayrshire boy, yeah?
Yeah.
Yeah. So over to you for a entry, a phrase, or your favourite turn of phrase that will enter into folklore in the Young Hearts Run Free Dialect Dictionary.
Well, so I think it's all quite similar across the West Coast and Central Belt and everything, but I'm going to say this one because my papa used to say it when he was alive, and he used to say "okay," and it stuck with me. So like I caught myself saying it in Chamonix. We'd had a long day, and I'd done whatever we were doing, and I was at the end of the day, and I was like, "Okay." And and I always think of my papa after I say it. I don't say it a lot, but when I say it, I say "okay." And I don't think, it's not a common phrase here. I think it's probably, I'm at this kind of end of that era, but I'm going to say it because it means something to me. So yeah, okay.
It's quite just like, okay. Do you know, it sums up a good day.
Okay.
Whatever sums up a good experience. It's got loads of different connotations. So okay is in.
It could be delivered in a number of different ways as well. It could be a bit like "aye, right." You know what I mean? It can be. You can use it. You can use it as you wish.
The one I hear the most on here is greeting. So somebody's always greeting about something, isn't they? So especially my gym, I'm going, "Oh, greeting again. Stop your greeting."
You used to earlier on. You says you were going like the clappers.
Going like the clappers. That's another one.
Going like the clappers. I was like, I bet you were. So no, thank you, Scott. Over to John for the final important question. You are finishing off something very important here, Scott.
The last song or track to be added to the Buff Buff Collection Volume 10, because we'll have a new one. So this is the crescendo. This is the champagne supernova of season.
The encore.
Yeah, so this is it. So
you put me on.
What is Scott Brown going to share with the Young Hearts Run Free listeners? What tune?
Yeah, so it's got to be, because the West Highland Way out and back, and my daughter's Dakota was there for the full thing supporting me, who played a blinder. It's got to be Chris Stapleton's song "White Horse." So amazing song, like, and me and my daughter play it in the car together and sing it in the car. So that was our song for the West Highland Way. So it's got to be that.
Brilliant. I don't know it. I've never heard that. I heard the Chris Stapleton, but
yeah, that song's a cracker.
It's brilliant. If it means something to you and your daughter, that's absolutely fantastic. Brilliant.
It's locked and loaded, John. It's in. It's the crescendo. So thank you for that. I also don't know it, so I'm looking forward to listening to it, because if it means it, I will bring back all the memories of this discussion when I hear it as well. So magic.
Definitely. And what a chat we've had with the Ginger Mexican. Absolutely brilliant.
Sorry for waffling on. Like I can't talk, especially with 2 coffees.
I cannot get enough detail when we're talking about the West Highland Way. I honestly can't get enough detail about it. And what you've done, Scott, is quite phenomenal. A finish time 44 hours and 40 minutes for an out and back on the West Highland Way. Quite magnificent. The people you've mentioned, the stories you've told, the tribute to John Kynaston, the meeting Keith Hughes on the way back, sharing the final part with Kerry and Dakota. It's almost like the universe has aligned to give you that, and it's brilliant. But it doesn't happen without hard graft, and you've put the hard graft in. Let's know, I think Stephen alluded to that earlier on, you've got a pretty decent base fitness to start off with. You can't just rock up and do that. You've prepared, you've thought it through, you've gathered your crew, and you've went out and done it. And it's been absolutely brilliant to hear your story. I'll hand over to this is the finale of season 13, Stephen.
This is it, Scott. And like just everything John says. I just can't believe the blinder that your daughter Dakota played in that, with that wee sort of, what if we didn't do this, Dad? Because that is as big a powerful fuel as you'll need with anything else. With all the other stuff, you're like that. Right, that's it. And I think I don't know if she was put up to that or what, but
Yeah,
it was class. But thanks so much, Scott. Really fitting guest to wind up our season 13. So cheers, and look forward to meeting you up in person at some point in the near future too.
Thanks for having me on, guys.